All right. In order to make sure that we get you out on time at 1 o'clock, let's go ahead and start with our program. And if you want to go ahead and start with your salad, you're more than welcome. Good morning. Welcome to Friday Forum. And I think this is one of our first Friday Forums. It's pretty exciting. And Lisa, y'all please be seated. Okay. I'm Rhonda Hooper. I'm President and CEO of Jordan Advertising, and I currently serve as the Vice Chair of Economic Development for the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. And the Chamber hosts these luncheons so that our members can learn more about what's going on and important issues that are affecting our region. This isn't about affecting, this is exciting things impacting our region. So obviously, because you RSVP'd for today, you know the subject matter at hand, but just want to reinforce that this is about Oklahoma City's progression as a visitor destination city. And that's pretty exciting for all of us. I tell you, public and private partnerships over the last 2 decades have come together and made some exciting things and transformed the face of our city. That transformation that I tell you, I personally am very proud, and I hope y'all are too, very proud of what we've accomplished. And it gives us, our residents, more reasons to invite their friends, families, and associates to come experience it all. And the economic development impact of tourism is extremely high, and it's something that we need to keep that momentum going on. Since 1993, Oklahoma City public and private partnerships have invested over $5 billion in quality of life projects, in the overall environment of the city and so on. And it's things that all of us can enjoy. It's what businesses expect for their employees. They want to be able to have fun things to do. So between renowned festivals, amateur and national sporting events, treasure-filled museums, and not to mention the fact that we have arts and entertainment in all these different districts going on, we have more than we've ever had happening, and that's pretty exciting. So during your dessert, I'm going to introduce 4 speakers who will come up and give their highlights and their perspectives of what they think Oklahoma City's transformation as a visitor destination is really like and what they perceive. So yeah, so you go and enjoy your lunch, and during dessert they'll talk. But first of all, Ashley, you can't enjoy your lunch yet. Want to introduce our series signature sponsor, and that is Cox Business. And I'd like to invite Ashley Perkins, who's Director of Sales for Cox Business, to please come up and have a few words with us. Let's give Ashley Cox a round.
I was going to go with dessert first, so, you know, life's short. Cox Business is proud to support the inaugural Oklahoma City Chamber's Friday Forum. Today we will hear from speakers about how Oklahoma City is becoming more inviting as a visitor destination, from a new riverfront development to world-class museums, exciting cultural and sporting events. Our city's changing and growing right before our eyes. It is very exciting. For when the business community comes together as the Chamber to work to create a business climate favorable to growth, expansion, and business relocation, you also get expanded growth in those quality of life sectors that make living and working in a community like Oklahoma City so attractive to people seeking employment. One little piece of information that I think is a good statistic to show you how exciting it is that 2,000 people relocate to Oklahoma City every month. That is pretty astonishing to me. I think it's fantastic. So that, coupled with our record-setting levels of unemployment, it's a great job our chamber and business community have done to make Oklahoma City the premier destination for business in the United States. We've come a long way as a city. From a downtown virtually abandoned on nights and weekends, we really rolled up the sidewalks at about 5, to a downtown that's now vibrant and bustling with entertainment and cultural centers and an NBA team, Go Thunder, that we're all very proud of. From a river that had to be mowed to a world-class flat water racing venue. So at Cox, we're proud to be part of this growth, this excitement that's in our city, and the pride that's blooming amongst all of us. And we're proud to provide state-of-the-art telecommunications to the businesses and the people of Oklahoma City. So on behalf of myself and Cox Business and Cox Oklahoma, we thank you for coming today, and we look forward to hearing from our panelists about some of the great things that are happening in our city. Enjoy your lunch.
You know, I can personally attest to those 2,000 people moving into Oklahoma City every month. I tell you, I've been behind more Michigan license plates in Texas and California. It's pretty amazing. So you know those snowbirds are really enjoying the fact that we only have snow for a few hours and then it's 85 degrees. Let's also welcome and say appreciation to our host sponsor, and that's the Sheridan, Oklahoma City, where we're having our wonderful meal today. And let's also thank our series corporate sponsors, and that is Central Liquor Company and Guernsey. Let's round of applause. We would have been clapping more if we had had wine at lunch, wouldn't we? Okay. All right, well, y'all please sit back, enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back during dessert and introduce our speakers today. Thank you. You may have not started on your dessert, but please continue eating and enjoy yourself. But in order to give our speakers their full time up and to share their insights, and we want to save a little bit of time, be thinking of a question you might like to ask, okay? I don't want dead silence in here, okay? All right. Our first speaker, Chuck Schroeder. Chuck is the president of the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, and he's held that position since 2002. He's a University of Nebraska graduate with a BA in animal science or animal studies. Prior to coming to the Cowboy, he has held leadership positions for a variety of public, private, and nonprofit organizations, including serving as CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. You're going to find that Chuck is he has all sorts of interest, and probably the most exciting thing is the fact that he is a healer. Not a healer, he is a healer, okay? And what that means is he's a team roper. And his trusted companion is an American quarter horse mare named Jinx, which is kind of why would you want a horse named Jinx? But he's going to tell you. And it's amazing. He does roping. He's into this. He loves arts, political history, livestock genetics. He's very worldly in all sorts of aspects and everything that's grounded in the American West. So our first speaker, and come on up, Chuck Schroeder. Give him applause. All right. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker, Lance McDaniel. Lance is executive director of the deadCENTER Film Festival, Oklahoma's largest film festivals, but it's the top 20 coolest film festivals in the world as acknowledged by Movie Maker magazine. Top 20 coolest, pretty amazing. Not only does he do that, but he is also an independent filmmaker, and he's produced 2 recent feature narrative films and a feature documentary. Last year he did an historic one on the first and female historic race for the first female governor of Oklahoma. That was last year, and he is in the midst of premiering his next film, and that is Just Crazy Enough with Chris Kattan. You have some pretty exciting things. So before he got into film, he served in 15 years as an internet consultant, and he was all over the world. He traveled in London, New York, and San Francisco. And he got his graduate at OCU in film and his undergrad at Stanford. So let's welcome Lance McDaniel, the filmmaker of the state. Thank you, Lance. Y'all are over here having a fun time, I can tell. Cox business is kind of getting crazy over here. All right, our next speaker, Glenn Mary, lives in New Jersey, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of U.S. Rowing. And he's had that position since 2005, is it, right? And prior to that, he was National Teams Programs Director, in which he was in charge of team logistics, the team selection, the funding of it, as well as all the organizational relationship and how they worked with the United States Olympic Committee. So no small task on his part. And, you know, I think it's kind of interesting. Glenn is he loves motorcycles. He loves home demolition. Is that with motorcycles? Okay. Oh, okay. They do it in New Jersey. Yeah, it's all about New Jersey. Okay. And you also like cooking, so you're a Renaissance man. And he loves coming. He said he spends as much time in Oklahoma City as he does in New Jersey now. We love you being here. So come on up, Glenn Mary. All right, our last speaker is a writer and a speaker and a trainer specializing in tourism, travel, and social media, Sheila Scarborough. She co-founded Tourism Currents, which is online and in-person training on tourism travel and online social media opportunities and things like that. She was a 2010 Austin American Statesman Social Media Award winner and 2011 Clarion Communications Award winner. She is also one of those, she's a hoot. She trains and speaks regularly about social media to a variety of audiences. She's written for so many blogs and for print publications and so on. I tell you, she loves NHRA drag racing. Okay, have you driven one yourself?
No.
Oh, okay, she hasn't driven one herself, but she loves it.
You would bring that up.
I would bring that up, yes. And she's a certified Navy Master Training Specialist. Guess why? She is from the Navy. So Sheila, come on up and wow us. You're going to find a personality to wow us. Okay. All right, if it's okay with y'all, I'm just going to ask each one of you, and if you speak about 10 minutes, and if there's a question I haven't asked you that you want me to, you just bring it up. Okay? All right, Chuck, I'm going to start with you. You better impress us with your healing. Okay. Chuck, how long have you seen visitation to both Oklahoma City and the museum change over the years? How has it changed?
Well,
and the addition of new attractions to our city, how has that impacted what's going on at the Cowboy Museum?
Number one, let me add my thanks to all of you for joining in this conversation today. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're not on.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I'll tap. I'll tap, but don't snark at somebody else's comments.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Please.
Okay. Yes, Lance. You leave yours off. Okay.
Well, anyway, I know my panelist friends and I are all delighted to be here and sharing the story of a remarkable story of change in a city. In 2015, the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, formerly the National Cowboy Hall of Fame, will have been open 50 years.
Wow.
We have hosted about 11 million visitors over the time we've been open. It's not 10 million a year, as your program says. I wish it were, but anyway, over that time, we have gone from being perhaps the only national caliber attraction in Oklahoma City to being simply one of several. We host some major national and international events every year. Western Heritage Awards this year actually goes back 52 years. Our big Prix de West invitational art show and sale used to be perhaps the only major events that attracted international visitors to Oklahoma City. Now they're only one of several, and others hosted by my colleagues here. So when you look even at our neighborhood, the Adventure District, out in our quadrant of the city, they're now, instead of just being the Cowboy Museum that attracts major crowds, we have Remington Park, we have the Oklahoma City Zoo, Science Museum Oklahoma, the ASA Softball Complex, all of whom attract hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. So things have changed rather significantly. When we look at the city at large, obviously with the development of the National Memorial, Bricktown, State Fair Park's equine facilities that are just some of the best in the world. There are lots of reasons now to come to Oklahoma City. Now, if I were speaking completely selfishly on behalf of the National Cowboy Museum, would I say that all of these things have been particularly to our benefit? No, they haven't. The fact is, the pie is cut up into a lot more pieces now. There's lots more competition for the dollar that visitors to our city will spend. So we have to be more competitive. What's it meant to us? we have to worry about our relevance to our contemporary visitors all the time. We have to think about how our events and how our museum fits in with the overall level of energy in the city and how we might help with that. So I need to say that while not exclusively do we worry about out-of-town visitors, for the National Cowboy Museum, we do have over 60% of our visitors do come from outside the metro area every year, and we track that fairly closely. So what's happened is that many of our visitors that we chat with when they come are no longer just coming for the day to see the National Cowboy Museum and then driving on somewhere else. It's not a stop by, it is a stop in and stay situation as they talk about other stops they're going to make in the community. That, by and large, is certainly a good thing. And we know from a study that the Chamber helped us with just a few years ago that the Cowboy Museum has roughly a $45 million annual impact on the community. And a good bit of that impact is from visitors who are coming, staying overnight, eating in restaurants, doing their shopping while they're here. So that, over the time that we've been in the community, is certainly a big change. And that critical mass of such attractions is a really big deal. We host over 250 group tours a year. And those are groups of 15, I believe 15 or more people is the way they classify them. Of course, a lot of those are bus tours. National bus companies, touring companies, that are hauling people around looking for stops that will attract their customers to get on those buses, pay the fees, and go with them. As exciting a place as we think the National Cowboy Museum is, if we're the only thing in town that would cause them to come, it's a pretty hard sale to make. It doesn't make sense for them to come and just stop at our place and then drive on to Little Rock or Denver or wherever else they're going. So having that critical mass of really interesting, attractive venues in the community does make a lot of difference to our business in the long run, and we're pleased for that. As evidence of that, we have a staff member who does travel with the Oklahoma City Convention and Visitors Bureau, with the Oklahoma Department of Tourism, helping to make that sale. We invest that in the marketing of our city and our state every year because we know in the long run, if we help to sell the whole package, it is good for the Cowboy Museum. So, Rhonda, in summary, I just would say how things have changed. Lots more reasons to come to Oklahoma City, makes us compete a little bit harder, and certainly drives us to be partners with our other members of the community in bringing people here.
That's awesome. Chuck, where would you say the greatest, where all your visitors originate from in the U.S. and international? I think this is interesting.
Well, this is a fun story. Many of you have heard me tell the story that every month at the Cowboy Museum, we will typically track visitors from all 50 states and 15 to 20 other countries. So we do have a pretty diverse visitorship. But when you look at sources, no surprise in the U.S., Oklahoma and Texas are number one. But 1 and 2. Number 3 is California. Number 4 is Florida. And then Illinois, Ohio, Minnesota are on the top end
Michigan?
of our... Michigan makes it in there sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then internationally, I think you'll find this interesting as well. Canada is number 1. No big surprise. But it is very consistently followed by Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, France, Japan, and interesting to me, and almost a little bit troubling to me, is that Mexico typically doesn't even make the list of that top 10 or 12 sources of our visitors. So anyway, great interest in the American cowboy in some places you wouldn't necessarily expect to find it.
Why Germany? Why do you think they...
Good question. Author Karl May who is now long deceased, has been a very, very popular fiction writer in Germany for generations. And he is their Zane Grey or Louis L'Amour. wrote these fantastic tales about the American cowboy and has more than a cult following there. And having been in Germany 2 or 3 times in recent years, indeed, you'll find cowboy hats and boots and whatever in stores in Frankfurt, but largely driven by Karl May's writing.
That's amazing. Have you heard any interesting comments from visitors or anything that kind of is memorable for you in terms of when they're touring the museum?
Well, our favorite comment, and we get it so often, and Oklahoma City should be proud of it because we're relatively humble people out here, and I think enjoy surprises. Invariably, when local people bring their out-of-town guests, and we love it when it's New Yorkers. We love it when it's New Yorkers.
Why?
Because they invariably walk in the door. With
Sorry
their
if you're from
noses-
New York.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'm just telling you how I see it.
Okay.
They come in wondering if they should have worn their nice clothes today.
Well, you know, Glenn's from New Jersey, so that's close
Yeah,
by.
that's
Okay.
close enough.
All right. Okay. Okay. Well, his nose is down. Okay.
Well, anyway, they make the tour of the facility, and typically they think they're coming for a half hour, and typically they end up there 2 hours or more, and come back to the front desk saying, well, I just had no idea.
Oh.
Had no idea. And they say that not only about our museum, where they do come and find world-class art collections and things that they just didn't think they would see there, but they say it about our city and about our community and the way that they're treated, the code of the West, if you will, in the way we treat one another with respect and a modicum of courtesy, plays very, very well with our visitors from afar, and we're always very proud of that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Chuck. Let's give Chuck a round of applause. And if you have a question of Chuck later, speak up. All right, Lance, you're on deck. You grew up in Oklahoma City, or actually in Oklahoma City, right? And you've traveled all over the world. You've been all places and so on. How do you think we've changed as a city over the last few years? And what do you think attracts people from around the country to attend our film festival?
Good questions. First of all, I want to say thank you for including me in this panel, and it is especially exciting to be at an event sponsored by Cox because we had very few sponsors several years ago, and Cox was one of our first sponsors and has been with us throughout. So I'm very excited to be here with you all sponsoring it. I left Oklahoma in 1988. I graduated and was going out to Stanford, and thought I would never come back. And part of it was I worked at Crow Dunlevy a couple of summers as a runner in 88 and 89, and it was basically me, a couple other runners, a secretary, and a tumbleweed downtown. And you would walk on the surface, and there was just nothing going on. And I just thought, boy, this is not, I don't see myself here. And so I left, and I ended up living in San Francisco for about 10 years. And I moved to London, and all these different cities were exciting, and I loved it. But every time I would come home, and I still came home a lot to visit my family, and every time I would visit back, I was surprised at what was happening. And first it started with Bricktown, and then the river and maps and the parks and the museums. And the more I started coming home, the more I realized, wow, this is a city that's actually reinventing itself, and it's becoming this exciting place, and I really wanted to be a part of that. So I chose to move home in 2005, and part of it was because there was a film industry that was getting off the ground here, and I was working for Gray Frederickson to do that. So I got moved home to do a bunch of low-budget, scary movies, and I haven't seen most of them because they're too scary. But
Did you star in it?
No, I am not an actor, luckily. When I moved home, I think probably the thing that I have seen shift the most is the attitude of our city towards downtown, and basically a recognition that it is important for a city in its growth to have a great center, an urban center, to have a great core. And as I said before, there was just nothing going on. And then once you're here now, there's tons going on. There's almost too much going on. Whether it's a Thunder game or whether it's the restaurants or bars or museums or all of that, there's so much going on. You always, now every weekend you feel like, oh gosh, I can't go to that because I'm going to this. And that's what makes our city more like New York and more like San Francisco, because now we've got not only one thing you're going to like, we've got 5 every weekend that you're going to like. And the reason I think the urban core is an important component of that is because kind of in the 80s, it felt like you would get in your car at 5 and just drive as fast as possible, as far as possible, to be in a community with like-minded people. And what an urban core does is an urban core brings all those people back, and so all of a sudden, some awesome person from Edmond gets to meet someone from Moore Acres or Norman or the south side of Oklahoma City, and they start exchanging ideas and start exchanging stories, and you realize, wow, we've got a fascinating city of 1 million different types of people that I don't get to see every day, and so it gives me an incentive to come back down to the urban center. And then I think kind of what happened after that was, once Bricktown got so crowded by the people driving in from Yukon, you're like, wow, where else can I go? And so, then you start.
They were all from Yukon, huh?
No, there were 2 from Moore. But and basically once you drive in and you're like, wow, that was so much more interesting than I expected. Why don't I try the Plaza District? Why don't I go out to Adventure District? Why don't I start trying all these different places around the city? And so not only did the urban core help, get people to Oklahoma City, it helped Oklahoma City people start exploring other neighborhoods because, like San Francisco or New York, there's now a variety of neighborhoods going on where you can have not only a different meal, but a different experience. Because if you spend the evening in the Plaza District seeing a play at Lyric and, and going to one of the restaurants, that's inherently different than if you're at the Civic Center or if you're going out to the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And so it allows you to have a diversity of options when you come into the city. So I think that the focus on downtown has been probably the most pleasant surprise for me. And then as far as festivals, I am a filmmaker, and I was a 5-year volunteer of deadCENTER before I started running it. So I'm not just here to promote it because I run it. I actually loved it obsessively before I started working there. What I think festivals do for Oklahoma City and what they do for cities in general is they provide the impetus to get in the car and go. And so, if you could use just Prix de West as an example, the National Heritage Museum is amazing year-round, but they get thousands and thousands of people at their event. At that Prix de West, it gives people a reason to say, hey, I'm not only going, I'm going now because I want to be there for that event. And so, and the same thing for Red Earth. If you're a Native American artist anywhere in the world, you're thinking, in the 1st of June, I better be in Oklahoma City because it's the biggest Native American art show in the world. And so I'm going to go there. And what's great for deadCENTER is we are the same weekend as Prix de West and Red Earth. And when I started the job, I thought, oh, God, that's terrible. And now, should we move it? Should we not? And what we've done instead is we've partnered with them. So we partner with the Cowboy Hall of Fame, we partner with Red Earth, and we start highlighting, hey, we've got more Native American films at deadCENTER than Sundance does. And Sundance was started to promote Native American film. We have more Native American films at our film festival here than they do. And so now Red Earth wants to promote that. So when we're in the Native Times magazine about Red Earth, they're also including, and we've got a film festival unrelated that shows tons of Native American films. And you can see Native American art at the National Western Heritage Museum. So all of a sudden, this, just like you were saying about it, people aren't going to come for one stop. But if you start creating a variety of things for them to do, even over the same weekend or not, then all of a sudden it becomes a destination.
And an experience.
And an experience, exactly. And a festival that I like to draw attention to, and I know, Austin, Texas, I consider to be a little bit similar to Oklahoma City. And obviously we're better because we're in Oklahoma. But Austin, in 1987, Austin started a music festival called the South by Southwest Music Festival. In 1994, they added Film and Interactive. In 2009, I think they launched Twitter there. In 2011, they had an economic impact of $115 million for the 3 weeks to the city of Austin, Texas. If you look at our festival, we're about $2 million. But if you look at the weekend, when you consider Prix de West, Red Earth, us, there's also drag boat racing that goes on that weekend, and hopefully a Thunder NBA Finals game, all of a sudden, we're looking at those type of numbers. And so festivals like ours become an impetus to get to the city, and then once you get there, just like everyone that visits the Cowboy Hall of Fame, you're surprised. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they even have water here. Much less an amazing river that has rowing and canoeing and kayak and all that. So I believe that a city has to have permanent museums and restaurants and events that are going on constantly. But I think festivals in particular give people that extra push to get in their car, get on the plane, and go there. And you can look at Park City. Park City is beautiful year-round, but the thousands of people all go for Sundance. Austin's great year-round, but people go for South by Southwest. So it gives people a reason to get in the car and go, and it adds that extra push.
That's awesome. Well, how did deadCENTER start to begin with? And how has it grown compared to other festivals? And then I'm going to give you a wild card.
Oh, great.
What's your dream for deadCENTER Film Festival?
Great. So I'll start with the one I know. deadCENTER started 13 years ago, so just the year before you came to the Cowboy. We started as a one-night screening at City Arts. So it was down at the State Fairgrounds. It was 1 2-hour screening. A couple of brothers founded it, and their mom, Justin Floyd, who works at Ackerman McQueen, was the founder. So they started this one night of films. And over the 13 years, we are now, we show 100 films over 5 days across downtown Oklahoma City, and we attract 20,000 people. And I think the first one was 50. So if you look at that growth, the first one I think had 50
to 20,000.
Well, exactly. So our growth has been fantastic. But I also think that we have, in an effort to try to keep it independent, I think we were hesitant as an organization to engage the corporate community. And again, we did have a few people that were with us from the beginning, like Cox, and the Kirkpatrick Foundation, certainly. But what we've done over the last 3 years is we've made more of an effort to reach out to the business community. Because I personally believe, and our board believes, that we will be a more important festival to the city once we are more integrated with the business community. And so we had 5 corporate sponsors 3 years ago, and we will have 50 this year. And what's important about that, other than the financial stability it provides us and allows for our own growth, it also reaches the 5,000 or 25 or how many employees those companies have all of a sudden are aware that we've got a film festival. And so we get a lot of energy sponsors. And I think the reason for that is if you're competing for an employee with Seattle, Houston, and San Francisco, you got to provide something that makes the city feel like a fresh, modern city. And the advantage deadCENTER has is that film happens to be the most widely enjoyed modern art form. So film as an art form is certainly more modern than ballet and all of those that have been around forever. But what it allows is 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds are seeing about a movie or 2 a week. And so the fact that we have an independent film festival that includes films that premiered at Sundance or Tribeca, but then we also have 70 films that premiere here that are Native American voices or small town Oklahoma voices, or there's OU women doing documentaries about why we have so many women in prison. There's all these unique topics and voices coming up, and so it feels like a society and a city that is willing to examine what's going on there and appreciate different styles of voices.
A sense of enlightenment.
A sense of enlightenment, and I think obviously, I like film more than most because I do it, but I think everyone loves movies. Like if you saw George Clooney walk in the room, that's what you would go home and talk about. Not me. It'd be George Clooney walked in the room during this presentation. And so I think celebrities add a little bit of appeal, and we've gotten a little bit better about using our corporate dollars to attract bigger celebrities, and I think that'll help our growth.
Excellent. And so your dream?
My dream for deadCENTER is to have a full-time education staff. That we currently see about 2,000 students all fall, and we're a 2-person organization. We have 2 staff members and 300 volunteers. And so Kim, the other staff member, and I go to 30 high schools in the fall, and this year we started targeting rural schools, so we were in Ponca City and Wayne and Purcell. And our goal is to basically inspire people in these small towns that, hey, you have the technology on your phone to make a movie. Now let's think about, well, yeah, you can. Anyone here can make a phone if you have an iPhone.
With 4 million YouTube postings a day, yes.
But and that's a perfect example. But the difference is, it doesn't matter how the technology is if you're not saying something interesting, right? And so anyone can film something. That doesn't mean you want to hear it or see it. And so what our goal is it comes back to basic storytelling, almost like the Native American heritage here. You've got to figure out how to tell a compelling story. And so what we do is we go into these small towns and say, here's how films are made, but it all comes back to story. If you tell Beasts of the Southern Wild, which is a super low budget movie about New Orleans, you could be nominated for the Oscar because it's a unique story that other people aren't telling. And so that's what we're trying to do, is inspire voices within Oklahoma so that they have the technology and the ability to get that out there, and we become a bigger part of what's going on in independent film. And so my goal for deadCENTER would be to do that year round and to have a staff that goes and just does that whenever schools need it. Because right now, since there's 2 of us, it's whenever I'm available in the fall. And so that would be my biggest goal. And I think as a festival, we already have a strategy in place for kind of managing our growth. And we get about 30% of the films from Oklahoma. Our big goal over the last 3 years is trying to get more Sundance high-profile films, and that is working by us going there and meeting filmmakers. And so I think organically we will grow as a festival as far as the content and the quality thereof. But to become more important to Oklahoma, I think we need to reach out and help Oklahoma children and help them, and engage them in an art form that that they're already engaged in anyway, because moving images are everywhere now, and they weren't before. And so we have the ability to go and help people navigate around those moving images, understand how they're made so they're not getting duped by fake things going on, but also how to use that technology to tell their personal story.
Wow, from scary movies to heading up one of the top 20 coolest festivals in the world. Thank you, Lance.
Sure.
Ask questions of Lance. Okay, Glenn, now that Chuck has totally offended you from being from a New Yorker.
It takes a lot to do that for a New Jersey person. So we have a long list of things that people just check off.
Okay, well, you know, and like we said, we used to mow the ditch and build sandcastles. How did U.S. Rowing come to partner with Oklahoma City?
It's actually a uniquely personal story. About my relationship with Oklahoma City has been ongoing for the past decade. This actually marks the 10th year that I've been coming out here. And as I was saying earlier over lunch, I spend more time at this regatta facility than any of the other regatta facilities in the country. And there's good reason for that. 10 years ago when I came out here, there was a regional regatta that was taking place. I mistakenly don't understand the geography of the far west, and I was on vacation in the Badlands and had decided that the tail end of the vacation I'd drive the RV down to Oklahoma City for this regatta. Now, keep in mind, I drive back and forth with the boats, you know, coast to coast, so I have a sense of distance and time, but really it's much further than it looks on the map. Yeah. There's only one state really between the two. So I rolled in the middle of a thunderstorm to this local regatta that I'd heard had between 10 and 15,000 people who were just showing up. It had only been going on for a couple of years. In the central district of, we have the country divided into different areas for us geographically. Central district is really a growing area of rowing in the United States. In the past 20 years, rowing has gone from about 350 clubs to about almost 1,200 clubs nationwide. And the Midwest is a huge area of growth. So I came out to this regatta. I met several of the community leaders at that regatta. I met Mike Knopp, and let me just say, he is the visionary behind what has occurred at the Boathouse District. But back then, there was no boathouse. They were still rowing out of a temporary facility. There were some grandstands. There were some referees. There were just people rowing. But we started talking about what if, and we started using words like and instead of. And we talked about, well, what if we brought Olympians out in 2004 after the Athens Games to be part of this event? What if we added a national flavor to this and drew in clubs and teams from major universities from the coasts? What if we brought more and more people and exposed them to this great waterway that you have on the Oklahoma River, just steps from your downtown? And over those 10 years, what I've watched is a community get behind developing their city and really creating what is, I think, the standard for the modern American city as we move forward into the next century. There's no one else doing the things that you guys do. And I think it's important for you to realize that. It's a community effort on every step of the way. How many people here have been to a regatta? How many people have tried rowing? How about canoe kayak? They are different sports. You wouldn't probably know that, but there's actually another guy who does my job who lives here for canoe kayak. But that's my introduction here. And over the years, what's grown into is now we have a permanent high-performance center here. We had 2 boats come out of the high-performance center here that competed in London. We have re-energized our high-performance group here by adding the men's 4, which may not mean a lot to people who don't know about rowing, but this was our bronze medal boat from the Olympics. This will be based out of Oklahoma City. Our primary head coach for the men's team is located here in Oklahoma City. We've designated it as our education destination. We've hosted major events like our Masters Nationals Regatta to bring in older athletes our age who are still participating in the sport to participate and compete at a national level here in Oklahoma City. It's the first time that they saw it. And everyone walked away saying the same thing. Wow. This is not being done anywhere else. You have 4 boathouses and a finish line tower. You have night racing. You've engaged the corporate community and grown it from 4 or 5 corporations to more than 40 taking part in Learn to Row programs. You've engaged the community, engaged the media, created an event that brings people to the river with rowing in the background. And families show up, and families participate, and they cheer for mom and dad that are part of the corporate culture. Philadelphia has a boathouse row, 8 boathouses. They don't talk to each other. They don't work together very frequently. Oklahoma City is building this from the ground up, and everybody's working together. That's the mantra. Canoe kayak works side by side with rowing. They've included zip lines and everything else that's going on down there. But I think it reflects more positively as a community as a whole, because what we see is the MAPS programs that continue reinvestment, reinventing downtown and bringing people back into the urban setting. And it creates a certain amount of weight behind the projects that you have ongoing that doesn't exist in other cities.
That's awesome.
I don't know if I answered all the questions that you were going to.
Well, I think you sort of did a little bit, but I tell you, from other people's perspectives, when you mention, I know our reputation is caught up a little bit with the U.S. rowing environment, but what if other people thought about us, or what did they perceive before they came and experienced it?
Yeah, I have 2 contexts to answer that question. One is as the head of rowing and the population that I serve. Rowing is traditionally an East Coast sport or a West Coast sport. Probably most people hadn't been to Oklahoma City until Masters Nationals. And the interesting thing was we had so much media in the rowing world about what was going on here with the boathouse and the finish line towers and the technology and the night racing that when we have this event outside of the Northeast, typically subscription drops off about 50%. Subscription still dropped off, but it was about 15% when they came to Oklahoma City. It was one of the best attended Masters Nationals that we've had outside of the kind of Northeast corridor in the past 2 decades. So from that perspective, the comments we got back were, this is amazing. These boathouses are top-of-the-line, world-class facilities that don't exist anywhere else. Now, the other context that I have is I've been the vice chair of the National Governing Body Council for the U.S. Olympic Committee. And simultaneous to the work that we've been doing specific to rowing in Oklahoma City, the U.S. Olympic Committee has come in and granted the designation as a training site to the city for Paralympic and Olympic teams for all sports. And you may not have realized, but USA Softball has been based here for decades. And while they're not on the Olympic agenda right now, they've been part of the Olympic agenda for a long time. But we hosted a meeting here, must have been about this time last year. And it gave me an opportunity to showcase with my friend Joe Jacoby, who heads up Canoe Kayak, what Oklahoma City has done to support sports. And previous to this, the only model that was out there was Indianapolis. And it's a much different model. Indianapolis talks about how it's the amateur sports capital of the United States, and it was for a brief period. And they focused it around one major event being the Pan American Games, and then relocating a bunch of national governing bodies to that city. And that's certainly a direction that worked for them in a lot of different ways. And I lived in Indianapolis for a number of years. I lived there before downtown was rebuilt. I saw the genesis and evolution of what they did with their downtown, how they centered around sport. But what was different is that was one piece of Indianapolis that was working with one agenda item. The difference here is it's woven into the fabric of everything you guys do. Every time I come out here for a major event, whether it's rowing or something else, you'll see people from the CVB, you'll see people from local businesses, you'll see people from the mayor's office, from the economic development group, and then the people that are running the on-the-ground events. And they're all talking together. They're all looking at one grand plan on how to move the city forward. You know, with the continual development of things like your convention center, you're going to surpass cities like Indianapolis that have been in that top-tier convention setting, along with San Antonio and New Orleans. You have that opportunity. And the infrastructure that you continue to invest in really makes that difference. You have a much friendlier, much more integrated, and much more one-stop shopping that makes it easy for sports and other agencies to come in and work with Convention and Visitors Bureau or whomever to bring their events here. So,
wow. Glenn, obviously what we've done is we've shown to the world if you put your mind to it and do it right, great things can happen. how do we continue that leadership position, because others will try to copy?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great thing to be copied. It means that you're leading the way. But you have to stay energized to be taking on new projects, and you've continued to do that during the 10 years I've been here. The one thing that I notice is many times when I hear people speaking from Oklahoma City, they talk about how it used to be and rolling up the sidewalks and that, but you've more than surpassed that. And it may be part of your recent history as a community, but it's not what people are seeing now. And what you need to think is, what will the sidewalks look like 20 years from now? And keep inventing that, and the technologies that you can bring to it, and the energy and creativity that you can bring. I mean, one of the things that you were talking about with an urban center and bringing in a diversity of ideas is that it's very hard to destroy something that has multiple views, angles, and inputs. If it's just one view, it makes it very easy for that view or that project to fail. So one of the things I found really interesting is how many different views and how diverse the discussions are in the community, whether it's American Indian heritage and sports, somehow tied into convention and business. All these things kind of work together, and that's the tapestry that really makes us stronger, and I'd say continue to develop that.
That's awesome. Let's give a round of applause to Green Lake. Sheila, tell us about your experience with Oklahoma City's reputation as a visitor destination. What do we have that other cities don't, and vice versa?
You know, I'm a travel enthusiast in general. I grew up in a Navy family. I was in the Navy, and so if I'm not moving every 6 months to 2 years, I kind of wonder where the next set of orders is. So, and I learned this from my parents, that every place has something unique and something special. You know, no matter how small a destination is, a town, there's something there that can appeal to someone. I got sick and tired of driving up and down I-35 going to a conference up in Kansas, and I saw the little town of Caldwell that wasn't too far off of I-35, and I said, by God, if I have to see this section of I-35 one more minute, I'm going to scream. There's got to be something in Caldwell, Kansas. Does anyone know what that is? What is it?
It's just south of Wichita, I think.
Well, it's on the border. It is the ornate box turtle capital of the world, they say. Rock on, Caldwell. Ornate box turtle capital of the world. I'm like, that's worth some gas. I'll go see it. Did I see any box turtles? No, but you know, they grabbed what they had and went with it. So the same sort of thing is happening in Oklahoma City when you have extraordinary things like the Boathouse District. And I can tell you there are plenty of people that are in my sort of travel enthusiast circle that, as somebody mentioned, don't even know there's a body of water in Oklahoma City. All right? No idea that there is any kind of waterway anywhere near the downtown, much less that there's a world-class boating facility there. So, you know, never make assumptions, of course, that people know these things. But you've also got small gems, even better than box turtles, banjos. Your banjo museum is absolutely a jewel. And I don't know diddly squat about banjos. I don't play a musical instrument. When I had an opportunity to go see it, I wasn't particularly enthused. But I am a history buff, and I am a music buff in general. And I walked in there, and I was floored. I melted my camera taking pictures of those gorgeous, gorgeous musical instruments. And you know, if you haven't had a chance to go, even if you think you don't care about banjos, if you like to see beautiful things and gorgeous artwork and learn the history of the instrument, you go there. And that's the kind of special thing that you have here. I have to tell you, and I'll be really upfront, I was very, very sad to hear that work has stopped on the American Indian Cultural Center and Museum. I met one of the folks from that when I was at the Governor's Conference on Tourism a few years ago when I did a keynote, did some other things afterwards, met Shoshana Wasserman, got all fired up, came up and toured part of the construction site, wrote a blog post about it, tagged them constantly on Facebook, talked about them constantly, and now I've learned that that has stopped. I'm going to be super blunt here. You don't be driving around with your license plate that says Native America and not support such a world-class, extraordinary facility here in the middle of your city. and I do not have particular expertise in Native American history, but the more you learn, the more depressed you get sometimes. Really, I lived in Florida, so I know it's absurd to have Seminoles in Oklahoma, and how they ended up here is a very long and sad story, okay? But it is what it is, the culture is what it is, and by golly, it is unique to Oklahoma, and that story and those stories, the happy ones, the exciting ones, the ones that, you know, your film festival highlights, and the sad ones, that's part of, you know, the warp and weave of what you have here. And I certainly hope that maybe the tide, the river, whatever, turns for that facility, because I always tell people, do you have any idea what they're building in Oklahoma City? I cannot wait till it opens. So, you know, everything from banjos to that facility to pops out there. Oh my God, soda pop. Whoa, what a great place. I went there and just absolutely blew my little sugar head off. Whoa, whoa. That is a photo opportunity, you know, with the swirly soda pop bottle there in front, and the way they have the blue soda pop, blue. Can you imagine what's in that? Oh my God. Blue soda pop bottles arrayed on the glass. Again, melt my camera moment. I really didn't even care about the restaurant or the hamburgers or whatever the heck. I just wanted to run around taking pictures of cool sodas. And as I tweeted about it and Facebooked about it, people who were in my network said, oh my God, I didn't know they still made, you know, XYZ soda. Or I drank that when I was a kid. Where the heck are you? And I'm like, I'm just outside Oklahoma City. And they're like, really? And I'm telling you, this is the reaction I get a lot of times when I tell people there's this, that, and the other thing in Oklahoma City. Really?
Why do you think they ask, really?
Because they think it's boring, and they think it is hokey-okey, and they think it's no culture, and it's a bunch of oil men and cattle, and who cares, I can get that in Texas. Really, you know? If you don't know any differently, then what the heck is Oklahoma City, other than, of course, if you know, you're constantly following the Texas OU game, please. Embarrassing. As a UT graduate, good grief.
Yeah, so I think for that statement, the New York thing is gone.
Yeah, really, I got it.
Hey, we're offending the world today. Okay.
I know enough not to.
You know, people are busy. People are busy living their lives. They may not be obsessed about going off and finding obscure things like box turtles and all that. It just may not have occurred to them that Oklahoma City is a destination that they might want to take another look at. And one of the great things that happens when you have conventions and meetings in this city, which is how I ended up finding out how great it is and meeting people at the CVB like Seth and Elisa and all the terrific tourism people here, is because I came here for Travel Media Showcase, which is a travel media get-together. And I have to tell you, I was like, okay, I'm going to Oklahoma City, you know. And I take pride in finding those box turtles of the world. And I'm like, I'm sure I'll see something interesting there. I had no idea. I had no idea. So now I've become an evangelist for your city, and I even asked my Facebook network, I said, all right, guys, what is it about Oklahoma City that you think is interesting? And they answered me. This was a couple of days ago, but I brought it up so that I could share it with you. And there was one thing in there that even I, either if I knew about it, I'd forgotten. But many of them had some of the same things to say that you might not be surprised. People are super friendly. It's easy to get around. One smart aleck from the UK said, Oklahoma City or Rome, I can't decide which one to go to next. Really? Okay, don't even get me started. Museums, I really enjoy visiting the Oklahoma History Center, attending a wedding at the Gaylord Pickens. This is a friend of mine who's heavy into social stuff and all kinds of neat things. Here's one person, Minnesota. She said, haven't been there, but they have a Riverwalk area, right? If that's the right city, I've heard good things about it. I decided that she was not talking about San Antonio, and yes, she did mean Oklahoma City. Now this is cool because I should have registered this, but another friend said we went 2 summers ago because our son wanted to visit the National Weather Center, and I was pleasantly surprised by all the other offerings in the area. There are a number of museums, great restaurants, and the area is a lot prettier than you'd think. Y'all think, I'm sorry, folks think you're butt ugly, okay? You know, you're gonna have to overcome that, okay? And then another friend of mine said that her son lives in Bricktown and said it's a really fun, lively, vibrant area. So there are perceptions to be overcome. There are people who have been here before, even maybe as recently as a year or two ago. Things have changed. Things are happening. You've got unique things like downtown places to stay, like the Skirvin and the Coal Court. And I look out my window at the Coal Court, and there's that swirly, swoopy, colorful thing. And I said to Seth, what the heck is that? He said, oh, that's a new pedestrian bridge that we've built to do. And I realized, I was like, bridge. Oh, God, there's water here? Bridge. Ugh. And I pride myself in kind of knowing something, and I really didn't. So there's a lot of ignorance out there, and for the coastal folks, I mean, I love coastal folks, New Yorkers and all that, but, sometimes the big centers of whatever you want to call culture can be the most provincial, okay? They're the ones who call this flyover country because they don't know any better, all right? And the kinds of things you have going on in Western Avenue and Plaza District. I'm sad to see OKC co-working doesn't seem to be anymore, a vibrant co-working kind of thing, creative class going on. Y'all have that going on here, and that's going to be a surprise to people. Make sure the word gets out about those funky things, because as a friend of mine says, you need to nurture your nut burgers, all right? Your nut burgers. You're people who own a freaking art gallery when there's nothing downtown but tumbleweeds and everyone says you're out of your mind, okay? Your nut burgers are where your blood's going to come in that's going to push forward all kinds of exciting things for your city. So God bless your Oklahoma nut burgers.
Good. Hey. Quick question for you, Sheila. Obviously, you focus a lot on social media. How does Oklahoma City compare in social media communications compared to some of the other cities you've seen in their interchange?
What I like about the people that I communicate with on Twitter, on Facebook, and other things in Oklahoma City is that they do what I call answering the social media phone, okay? When I take the time to send a tweet out to the CVB or to a museum, or I tag someone on Facebook, that is a way in social communications of saying, hi, I'm talking about you over here. And I don't expect an answer to every single thing. We're all human. We can't do everything. But people say, gee, we need some of those bloggers. Well, you're looking at one, okay? Like Madge, you're soaking in it. For those of you who are old enough to remember those ads, I'm 51. Yeah, we don't all wear jammies and live in our mommy's basement. You're looking at a blogger, all right? And if you want people like me, then you need to speak to me in my language. And when I tweet to you, answer the cotton picking phone and tweet back and say, hey. And that's exactly what Oklahoma City people do. They answer, hey, glad you were here. They retweet things. Hey, did you think about going to see this? Excited to have you in town. They're friendly. It's a friendly conversational thing on the channels where nerds like me hang out. So if you want me to talk about your cool stuff, talk to me in the language in which I speak.
Well, that genuine friendliness that we have is coming across social media channels as well. So that's Nutburger, Sheila.
Burgers.
Let's give her another round of applause to Sheila. Like that. Okay, they've been extremely engaging. How about questions from the audience? Yes.
Man, I love you guys. I woke up this morning loving Oklahoma City, and now I'm on fire about it. I'm going to move here.
Who are you?
I'm David Howell, owner of the Ace family of companies here in Oklahoma City, and thank you, Chamber, for putting this on. This is crazy good. Sheila, you've inhaled way too much nitrous at these NHRA events, but yeah, not too close, okay? But okay, you all have a visionary element, quality to yourselves. You've all sat in quiet moments and wondered what's the next big thing. What's this city going to be like in 10 years, or what is the next big thing?
Lance?
Great.
Don't look at me. I won't call on you. Okay.
Yeah, my fault. I think what I'm looking forward to in the next 10 years is the park. I do believe the convention center is going to inherently change the city for the better by attracting, just what you're saying, by attracting large groups of people that become advocates for our city and then go back to their homes. And so if you have an 800-person convention, those are 800 people talking about your city positively when they go back home. So I definitely am a big fan of the convention center. But for me, I think the park is going to have a fundamental change because we are a car-based society with a lot of lawns. And so people have their own personal park. Not everybody, but a lot of people have their own personal park in their backyard. And so what I think having this extraordinarily big and robust downtown park will get people mingling together. And I do believe, and I kind of started with this, I think that supporting a strong urban core creates a lot of benefits, a lot of tangential benefits. And I think getting all these great ideas and great artists and great musicians and people coming down and giving them a playground in which to explore and learn will fundamentally change the way we treat each other as a city. And I think it'll help bridge the gap between the south side and the north side. I think it'll help draw in the urban sprawl. And so I think there's a lot of benefits that will come by having a really enriched and green downtown space that feels like something you want to be a part of.
Chuck?
Real quick, I think one of the great things about Oklahoma City today is that unlike other cities of our size who have tried to reinvent themselves, they have tried to abandon their own past and their own culture in order to create something that they're not. Oklahoma City, and I think we've struggled with that as a community perhaps, but Oklahoma City is not ashamed to say we're cowboys and Indians, and we're energy and the arts. And we have great heritage in all those areas. And I think the more that we embrace those things, celebrate them in today's culture, the more we distinguish ourselves as a community that people really like to go visit. Because the people they meet on the street are essentially what they saw in the ads.
Yes.
And the image that they tried to create. People who have generations of linkage to the land. And it creates a whole set of community values that are important and are marketable. And I hope that we continue in that direction because it's certainly what we're about, and I think it's a good thing.
It's authentic. Exactly. Any other questions? Okay, we have a minute and a half. Any other? Nobody?
I'm at Sheila S. Sheila and then S. And I never shut up, so you might have to kind of like mute me sometimes.
Couldn't you see her really driving that dragster? I could. I tell you, this has been very. Did you have? Oh, sorry. Go.
One last question.
Uh huh.
Hi, I'm Risa Forrester from Oklahoma Christian University, north side of the city. Recently, forgive me, I don't remember exactly which group it was, but Oklahoma City was named as a great place for recent college graduates. Could you speak to maybe why you think that is? What can we do to encourage more industry to come so that more of those great college grads stay here, get jobs, don't, sort of migrate to Texas and those kinds of things? Thank you.
Glenn, I think you have a perspective on that.
I have a perspective because our training center is exactly those athletes, that same age group. And frankly, it's about having a sustainable living standard in a downtown area. This next generation who's graduating is not looking to live in the suburbs. They're looking to have the circumference of their life be relatively small, to have convenience in workplace, commuting, grocery shopping, where they live, all being together, having public transportation, all the things that you guys are looking at and that you've developed in downtown. I think perpetuating that into a sustainable environment, things that may be on the drawing boards as far as corporate partnerships, bringing grocery stores into the downtown areas, making shopping something that can take place, where you can walk out into downtown and there's normal stores that you would shop at the malls out on the outskirts of the city. Those types of things I think are what are going to engage this next generation, because even though they're heavily involved in social media and technology, they're really looking at a lifestyle from like the 1920s where people basically lived and worked within a 7-mile radius.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you. Tell you what, has this been a lively group? Let's give them a round. Oh, very, very good. Again, thank you to our series signature sponsor, and that being Cox Business, and our host sponsor, Sheridan of Oklahoma City, and our corporate sponsors, Central Liquor Company and Guernsey. And April 9th is Schmoozapalooza, and if you've never been to Schmoozapalooza, you need to. It's a great networking opportunity, lots of business outreach. Show on up, and thank you so much for your attention. And we got you out 1 minute late. Thank you.